And I think linear education is already dead because soon AIs will teach you and educate you based upon need. So I can take a generalist, curious young person, give them an opportunity to be mentored or be an apprentice in a business environment, create and add value and be rewarded for it, and track their progress, and the system will learn how they learn to make them better.
I said, hands down, I got to believe that the discussion that just went on and the thinking that went on and the contribution is the finest discussion that's going on in the United States. Not in the United States, but in the world today. There's no other place in the world where 13 people are having the level and quality of discussion that we're having. Yeah. And I said, so don't worry about the rest of the world. You're in the center.
Yeah. What makes Coach unique is the alignment of values. And what you have, you're surrounded with a whole bunch of people with upgraded operating systems. You don't have to go through a whole bunch of, am I aligned with you or not? It like bypasses years of trust development.
Hi, this is Dan Sullivan, and I'd like to welcome you to another scintillating, out of this world podcast discussion with Mike Koenigs. And Mike, you've had, I think your supply right now is the best supply you've ever had. And I think you're getting higher on this one than you ever got higher on any previous supply. And the other thing is that in my experience with technology, I think that this is a really big deal that we're going through right now on the scale of electricity, on something like that, because I think we're entering a new realm of this AI world that has suddenly presented itself as available to anybody who wants to use it. And that's a difference maker. That's a big difference maker. Before it was, we heard about it, and it was a result of billions of dollars of investments in deep, large organizations, and it didn't really have anything to do with us. And now suddenly the tool has been presented to innovative, ambitious, value-based individuals.
Yeah, and as we discuss in this episode, we don't just talk about AI and, like you said, getting high on your own supply. It feels like there are piles and piles of the good stuff laying around as much as you want. That feels good, but also we deep dive into why America is important. We talk about de-dollarization, the philosophy of money movement, which countries you can probably expect the top 3 that are most likely to fail and why. And we tie all that together in a way that we finally get to, how do you upgrade your operating system and work with people who think like you do, who have the same amount abundant mindsets, without spending 10 years to find them and curate them and get them educated to think like you do. Where do those people exist? That's the big reveal in this episode of Capability Amplifier.
Great pleasure of mine. It cannot be called work. It's pure enjoyment. But every couple of weeks, every month, I get to do 3 podcasts with Mike Koenigs. And in most of the circles I travel, I'm the wacky one. But it's just a great pleasure for 2 hours to be the one where you're the stable one. And, but we really, really dance together really well. So this is Amplifier, Capability Amplifier, and Mike's on a hot streak. Mike has a big one. He's got a big one, and there's more big ones. Actually, the fish are jumping in the boat. Mike?
Yeah. Wow. That's a setup. So there are definitely some big fish on the line and some crazy
and fish jumping in the boat.
it's yeah, I feel like the story I tell is it's like traffic guys are all over again back in the early days of the internet when I had like a brand new tool that everyone wanted and needed and it genuinely worked. And right now, maybe the setup for this is, and it was back when it first happened. I can remember you and I were doing a podcast and ChatGPT had just been released. And I was showing it to you and saying, look at this and look at this and look at this. And you said, well, ChatGPT is now the third member of our podcast cohort. And we've got a special guest every time. And at first it was like, that was a new idea. And then, they went to 100 million users in a month or so. It was less than 8 weeks. And now there's hundreds of millions of users. And I think the world generally agrees that this is not just life-changing, but humanity-changing technology. And I was one of the first to be talking about it and demonstrating it and showing ways to use it in a functional way in a business. So it led to a lot of speaking opportunities. So since our last recording, I spoke and presented at Abundance 360. We trained the patrons. We had, I was over at Norman Lear's house. We did talk about that one. The story I say is a 101-year-old man wants to know how it's going to affect humanity. And then Tony Robbins had me speak and present. And then I've had EO and YPO conversations. In a week, I'm going to be with a multi-billionaire, another one. The billionaires are coming out of the woodwork. And they all want the same thing, which is, how do I bring this into my business? How do I teach my people to use this and think this way? Because it's not just using it. I think part of the magic they see is when I demonstrate how to talk to AI and create these prompts, you get really good results fast. And we're creating businesses now in days, including writing code and building websites and content and videos and deep fakes and all this stuff that's genuinely useful. It's not just party tricks. So, and again, what people are asking for, we get to collaborate and invent things that have never been made before, but do it in record time. And it is so exciting. Mm-hmm. And I've never had more fun. I feel like I'm 14 years old and I just learned how to code.
Yeah. Well, if it's a good new thing, it will make what you do uniquely well stronger. Would you say it meets that criteria?
Yes. What I would say it is, and you said it earlier, it's the ultimate capability amplifier. And if you are a curious generalist,
so far.
That is a great point. That is a great point. And I think it's I've seen it, for example. So Zach, my son, is 20. He's going to CU Boulder. He's a film and philosophy student. And I did a presentation earlier this week. We did a training. And the night before I said, hey, what do you think you can make? And I've been mentoring young people, young men. And I haven't had a bunch of women do it yet, but so it's a bunch of young men. And the big promise is, look, you can learn an effective trade skill that will make you incredibly valuable. You could earn a 6-figure salary as a prompt engineer and work your way to becoming a chief AI officer for a business, because every business needs one right now. That's one of the things that Peter talks about. So anyway, he and his buddy Elijah, his best friend, he's known since he was like 2 or 3, got to work and wrote a little script. And it's Tony Robbins and Peter Diamandis having a talk about text to movie. Basically, you could type in a prompt and have a movie made. And so then Zach started experimenting with puppets that got turned into characters. And then the next thing is we did voice synthesis, and I'll actually play it for you. You want to see the result?
Sure.
Dan, it's 1 minute long.
Let's show.
We'll show it off, and then so here's the backstory. Here we go. So this is Zach and Elijah. It's actually in reverse order, and Zach's being funny. He's on the right, and Elijah's on the left. And I'm going to just play the little video for you, and just know that this whole thing, Zach and Elijah had 4 or 5 failures before this one was made. And it took about an hour and a half to get to this final. And I'll sort of describe how it was made after I play it.
Peter, it's incredible to have you here today. Let's talk about the future of filmmaking.
Thanks, Tony. I'm thrilled to discuss this revolutionary advancement in technology.
Can you tell us how AI is reshaping filmmaking?
Absolutely, Tony. Imagine creating a whole movie just with text-to-video commands. Everything, the script, the music, the dialogue, the actors, even special effects, all designed and executed by an AI. That's the magic, Tony.
That's amazing, Peter. But will it know what kind of movies I like? The potential for personal expression is limitless.
Your AI learns from your preferences and creates something you'll love. All of it created in mere minutes. Anyone can be a filmmaker, Tony. They can tell their stories their way, and this is just the beginning, Tony. We're on the cusp of a creative revolution.
The potential for personal expression is limitless. This is the democratization of art and storytelling. We all have unique stories to tell, and now we all have the power to express ourselves.
Okay, so what you just saw there started out with Zach with dirty sock hand puppets, and what he did is basically ended up him and Elijah performing with their faces, and then used some software that takes that and made these kind of like claymation or Muppety looking characters. And the voices were done after we did a ChatGPT prompt. So that was the prompt, and it produced a video script in a couple of moments, and that's what it looked like. And then we fed that into a deepfake voice generator, which all I did is I fed in a Tony TED Talk that was, less than 20 minutes long. And then I did the same thing with Peter. So this is what it looks like. It's a tool, and like I could make a deepfake Dan with 10 minutes of your voice that would sound virtually identical to you. And then you click on use, you paste in the script, you pick a voice, and then this is what it sounds like.
Peter, it's incredible to have you here today. Well, let's talk about...
So then I did the same thing with Peter.
We're already witnessing the initial state.
And then we used a tool called Runway ML. And again, this is like a little goofy thing I recorded after they finished up, and then I put it in this tool, and it basically can turn a video into puppets or sci-fi characters. And in a very short period of time, we'll be able to sit down and like your person, what you love, will be, it's already known by your search history, your browse history, and any social stuff. But you can say, I want to watch a movie, and the AI will write it. It'll know to either use characters you already love or create characters that you like. It'll build the characters and render it and write it and perform it in real time. In other words, it won't even be recorded. And that tech is very, very close. And so now that can just create a whole bunch of fear for a whole bunch of folks, right? It'll be like, oh my God, what's going to happen in the music industry or the movie industry, right?
No, I'm not, I don't go in that direction at all.
No.
But what I found it really funny. I found the minute was really, really funny. And it was a really great parody. It was really, it was a really great. And I think that there's a lot of room for parodies, and and previously we've used puppets in people's faces, and with actors acting it, and it's just a jump up in how fast you can do it. It's really fast, and who can do it, I think it's really, really great. So I just see it as an expansion of humor, and. Yeah, and the other thing was the characters were shape-shifting, and that was really funny, because it's almost like as they went along, who the person is on the inside started to really come out, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I don't know Tony except to, you know, shake hands with him, but I certainly do know Peter. And, you know, the interesting thing about it, which I've noticed, that Joe Polish at Genius Network, one of his big conferences, had both Tony and Peter on stage, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tony's 6'8" and Peter isn't 6'8". Peter isn't 6'8", and Joe went back and forth, and he asked them the same set of questions, you know, back and forth. And one of the things about it is I can't remember a single thing that Tony said, but I pretty well remember everything that Peter said. And Peter's got a way of talking where it really lands intellectually. And with Tony, I just get this sense of a force field. You know, there's this kind of force field coming out. But I found that what Zach did really captured that sense of how different they are, and what each of them. I mean, Tony's all about emotion. He's about motion and emotion, and kind of there's a jackhammer kind of messaging where Peter is just the opposite. He's very articulate, and you know, and everything like that. So I tell him 5 stars.
Oh, thank you. I'll show him this.
Should put it on TikTok.
Yeah. Well, that's a great idea. He's re-rendering it because right now there's the 4-eyed Peter.
Don't try to make it too perfect. It's actually the imperfection that is charming.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Yeah, he'll love that because he is very artistic, and he does see, like, he has a very different brain than mine. And I did my best, like when I had Elijah and Zach come on and teach what they learned doing this to all these executives who are paying to create their own chief AI officers. And I tried to just say, look, I just want to show you what's possible in a short period of time with 2 kids kind of monkeying around. And imagine
the other thing is that we're going into a different world when it comes to humor right now. And what I'm noticing is that you can attack people any way you want, and they've learned how to parry the attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But if you mock them, they've got no defense.
Totally. You are so dead on. It is. I remember I was coaching a presidential candidate a while ago, and it was right in the middle. Yeah, it was Tim. And I said, there's only one way you can create any headway. You know, I said it in the nicest way. Basically, you don't have a chance of a snowball's chance in hell unless you hire professional comedians and you effectively mock and shame them. And at the time, that would have been the only way to get Trump, in my opinion, is you have to mock him and shame him. And you have to, like, the only reason Hillary got anywhere with him, in my opinion, is because she mommy shamed him a couple times. And there were a few times you could see she had some level of control for a moment. And I think a comedian, because that's the one thing he's sensitive about, right? We remember when he sued Bill Maher for calling his father an orangutan, and like he can't take a joke. Yeah. So, and I think from a political point of view, especially now when we live in this world of deep fakes, and I had heard that, what's his name? The goofball from Florida, DeSantis, is creating deep fake Fauci images, right? And was attacking him. Like, so that's going to get a lot worse. There's a really good show called Captured, and it's on Peacock, and it's basically about how deepfake gets used by the state in the UK to basically put bad guys away. So when they don't have hard proof, they're faking evidence, but it's based upon real intelligence.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastically smart show. But anyway, I'm way over. I've taken it to the nth degree. But man,
but humans are very, very adjustable to this, and they talk to each other about this. They talked about. I mean, there's a prevalent image that human beings are isolated. Okay, that this individual is just isolated but I have no experience of human beings they're always social with somebody. There may be like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, just died last week, 83, and I think he was as close that I think of. He lived in a 6 by 12 shack in Montana for until they caught him. I think it took him a long time to catch him and everything like that.
Yeah, they sure did. Yep.
And his brother and sister-in-law actually turned him in because they remember they had other samples of his writing that he had fired off tirades to them, and they just showed it to the FBI. And the FBI has ways of tracking people down. But anyway, people are still busy. Everybody's busy with what's going on every day, and who's got time to think about? The people who are dreaming up these dystopian. I'm totally isolated, and they're coming. They're not coming after you. Unless you kind of go out of your way to piss them off. Nobody's really coming after you. So, and I don't think AI changes the game. It changes the nature of the game. It doesn't change the game. It just changes the nature of it, And, in my lifetime, this is the 25th thing that actually changes everything.
Yeah.
But it has to change the previous 24 also. And there's resistance. There's friction, and everything like that.
Yeah. I think the adoption cycle is going to be very different, partially because like the way the internet worked. I mean, I commonly compare. I can remember distinctly when faxes came out, right? And it was a big deal because it's like, well, you don't need FedEx for certain things. It's instantaneous and you can move stuff around, and sales orders. And I can remember I remember some people who built their entire businesses around the fact that they could take orders with fax machines fast, and game changer, right? And then, word processors and spreadsheets and the internet, not necessarily in that order, and email, big deal. And the distinction with AI is, like right now, AI is about, as of now, we'll call it 6 months old and being adopted like crazy. And people are trying to figure out how to use it in their lives. But what they don't realize is how every device you've been using and owning has had AI in it to some degree, and it's in every bit of infrastructure. But now, because of this consumer adoption, like NVIDIA this past week surpassed $1 trillion in value, and they've been using AI to multiply the capacity of the ability to produce chips and the density of them by like 10x. And it's because their chips are so fast they can calculate faster. It means they can create more density, right? The AI is learning and getting smarter, and it's learning from everyone's input. So its ability to do more stuff is moving at an exponential rate, and it all happened in no time.
Yeah, well, it's a function of the connectedness of a larger population too. I mean,
right.
But I'm a great believer that humans do what humans do. They just do it in different ways from generation to generation. Yeah, and one of the things we like to do is we like to play, we like to laugh. We're really into, when it's possible, really into cooperation. We're really into teamwork. We like we like to party.
Yep.
And we like entertainment. We like satisfying work. But that was true, 2,000 years ago. It's just that it was reserved for a rare number of people 2,000 years ago, and it's wider spread. Percentage-wise, there's more people who get to do, in their personal life, more enjoyment, and in their work life, more satisfaction. I just see this. But the big thing is what Mike Koenig's going to do with it, because I see, we've had a lot of talks about what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like doing. It just seems to me that this checks more boxes than anything else that you come across before.
Yeah, I think. But
I think
you're asking me what's on the horizon.
Yeah, I think you're only able to take advantage of it as fast as you are because of everything you've done before you got to this.
That's what Peter said. He said, if there ever was a perfect time to be Mike Koenig's with everything you've ever done, this puts it all together. And I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Oh, no,
First of all,
I see that totally.
Well, here's what I see happening that I feel very aligned with. And I had a 90-minute conversation with Peter the other day. And one of the things we talked about, and I'll give you like 3 big things that I'm really interested in right now that excite the hell out of me. And I'll start with the big global facing one, and I'll narrow down to like what we're doing. That's fun as hell. Aside from the fact that I love the fact that my kid used this little thing and made the cute little video, that was like, and he's participating. He's really excited, right?
I found it extraordinarily entertaining. I just found, I just think it was well done. Just because of the brain who put it together. I enjoy that brain.
Hey, this is Mike Koenigs. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but if you're an action taker and ready to transform and reinvent yourself and your business, go to connect2mike.com to learn more and book a conversation with me right now. All right, back to the episode. So here's, I'm going to give you just a couple of them. So the top one is, our public school system is a freaking disaster, and everything about the way our public school system works with unions and the fact, like I've said for years, I think teachers should become millionaires. They should be rewarded on a basis of meritocracy and performance and get a long-term royalty based upon making and helping kids get to be great kids. Now, I don't think it's the state's responsibility, but I believe it's a place to start. And colleges are so freaking, if there ever was a woke mind virus, I won't say it's the cause, but it certainly is insane the way they work, the way they generate their money, the power they have, and the fact that they're controlled and owned by administrators who add zero value. Okay. And that's a big political loaded statement, but anyone who listens to us probably agrees. And I think linear education is already dead, because soon AIs will teach you and educate you based upon need. So I can take a generalist, curious young person, give them an opportunity to be mentored or be an apprentice in a business environment, create and add value and be rewarded for it, and track their progress, and the system will learn how they learn to make them better. I think that's the future of education. Just in time, value creation and delivery that is real world focused. And I'm super excited about that. So I think the creation of an alternate form of education is inevitable.
Yeah, but it already exists. It already exists. Yeah. Can I tell you something? I had a podcast with Peter about this, and I said the biggest thing that I would contend your notion about the public education system is that there isn't any system. There isn't any system. We have industrial ways of talking to today, then that world doesn't exist. We're thinking in terms of Sears and Roebuck. We're thinking in terms of Grand Central, railroads, Penn Railroad. We're thinking in terms of U.S. Steel. We're thinking in terms of General Motors. And I said, that's not the way things operate these days. And I could find 100 high schools in the United States that defy everything that you're saying about the educational system. For example, in Phoenix, in Scottsdale, in Paradise Valley, where Joe Polish lives, okay, the public school system there creates 6 tracks right away based on people's innate abilities and their innate interests. Yes. And they have a 5-day school week. And on 3 of the days, they're strictly on their track. And the other 2 days, they're with everybody else. And they've got jokes about each other. Oh, here comes the visual people. Oh, here comes the people and everything else. And so you don't have that educational class system about those who are going to university and those who are going to be blue collar. Well, that's an experiment. The truth is, there isn't any system. And, I mean, I live about 5 blocks from one of the most highly rated high schools in the United States. Okay. So my sense is the fallacy of the thinking that there's actually a system. There isn't any system. Okay. It's like the healthcare system. I've got great healthcare. I live in Canada, and people say, how do you have great healthcare in Canada? I said, well, it's a 2-tier system. It's the government system. And they said, yeah. Is there another system? I said, yeah, Air Canada to Phoenix, Air Canada to Nashville, Air Canada. And they say, well, that's not a system. And I said, I'll tell you, the government system only exists because 10,000 wealthy Canadians do the other system. I'm just naming a number there. I don't know how many there are. And but I have great. But it's also cost me, Babs and I, it's cost us $3 million since 1985 to do our own exploration. And we put together a whole system, on all sides. Great. We got a great healthcare system, but it's customized. So the problem is everything's going to be customized now. It's going to be individualized. Okay. And, there isn't any democratization of the digital world. I mean, Peter's got that. It's a neat idea, and it's got everything. But in fact, so little test case for you. Everybody's into AI. I was in the UK week before last. I spent the whole week in the UK and London. And they have lots of newspapers over there. They have, I think they have 12 dailies, and tabloids and serious ones like the Times of London. But the one I like is the Telegraph, because I think the editors vote more or less the same way I do on election day. And so anyway, from Monday to Friday, 2 mentions about AI in any regard. It's not in the UK. Okay. And if it's not that way in the UK, it's not that way on the continent. I doubt if it's that way in Africa. I don't think it's that way. Yeah, it might be the Indians, because they're kind of into this sort of thing. Yeah, and everything.
That's when I was in Spain. That's what the guy over there was like. He said, it's not even a conversation. And I did a whole spiel for 12 founder entrepreneurs, and they're like, how do we get this in here right now? Which
you don't.
Yeah.
You connect with people in the United States.
Yeah. And
you want to make your world American? Connect with Americans and not all Americans.
Yeah.
Just see, the big thing is the world has changed. We don't have those big systems anymore. Nobody's in charge. Life's not fair.
That is true. Well, I'll tell you what else I'm excited about. Okay, so that was the first thing, and in a way, I thought, that's an interesting scalping. And I don't disagree with you, Dan.
But you're going to have to go to meetings to change the educational system, and you hate meetings.
Yes. And honestly, I don't care. In a way, I don't care about the system. I just think it's going to be supplanted by an entrepreneurial solution that's going to do it with or without them, right? So in a way, the system is irrelevant. It's sort of like you can lead by example. And I know I'm doing it on a small scale. Yeah.
I just saw the handiwork, I guess, of two 20-year-olds, right? They're 2 20-year-olds. And seems to me they've gone to a pretty good educational system to be able to pull that off. It's just that it wasn't in the building called the school. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The building, the systems are irrelevant. And that's part of what I'm excited about. So
no, they're irrelevant to people at his level.
There. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just think we have to think. I mean, here's one. It's not a complaint I have, but it's an observation that I have about entrepreneurs, and they want to be unique, but they want everybody to understand them. And I said,
oh God, that's so true.
I said, look, these two things don't mix.
No, talk to your dog and then get stuff done. That's what I'm like. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah,
man, that's good.
And they want to be accepted for who they are, but their whole point in life is not to be like them.
Exactly. I'm different.
It's like the Life of Brian. If you remember the scene from Life of Brian.
Yeah.
So it's about Jesus, and but they have a marketplace of messiahs. So everybody's got a booth. Every messiah's got a marketplace.
Yeah.
Brian has no intention to be either, but all of a sudden he gets a following, and all of a sudden he's the Messiah. And he runs through the streets, and he gets back into his building where he lives, and he goes up on the balcony, and the crowd's out there, and everything that Brian says is repeated to him. Yeah. And he says, "Go home," and they say, "Go home," and then he says, "Don't listen to me," and they say, "Don't listen to me," and then he says, "You're all individuals," and they say, "Oh, we're all individuals," and this one person down at the bottom says, "I'm not." It's a great, it's a great scene,
Yeah,
and it's hard to accept individuality and feel that you're part of the larger system.
Yes.
The larger society, not system, but the larger system. And there's a tension there. But but what works for you, probably by definition, doesn't work for anybody else.
Right. Right. I think there's some pretty common rules, like which I'll make my point.
Show up on time.
Yeah.
Do what you say you're going to do. Finish what you
say. Please and thank you.
Say please and thank you, and be appropriate. Yeah. I mean, don't wear the wrong clothes to the right situation.
Which includes lady clothes. If you're don't go there. Yeah.
No, let's go there. Let's go there.
Yeah.
You can do it, but it's just going to raise lots of questions.
Yeah. I got no problems. I just don't want your religion shoved down my throat. It'll be like, I don't care what you are. You can be a pink hippopotamus.
Yeah.
As long as you're the best pink hippopotamus and you don't make your deal about being a pink hippopotamus. Make it about the results, benefits, and outcomes you produce without a lot of friction and adhering to those rules. So with that, I'm going to give you number 2, Dan. I'll try to keep on here. What I'm excited about right now, which is relevant to the first point, your point rather, is I've had more fun creating more stuff faster, like the collaboration. So I've been saying for a little while, I have this theory philosophy. So if you think about wealth, abundance, revenue, it's created from value extraction and arbitrage from time, labor, technology, science, and time, right? Or maybe I already said time. and leveraging IP, whatever. And so, and I kind of started mentioning this earlier. If the Industrial Revolution created millionaires, internet created billionaires, AI will create trillionaires. One of the things that I've been doing as an experiment is, in the past, when we do what we call our vision days, it's 3 days. We create a brand, we create a product, the pitch, the packaging, all that stuff. You walk away done, you can make more money. But now we added, so imagine we can make anything you have worth 3 times more. So you can go out and get better customers and charge more for that. What if we can bring in an AI expert who turns your IP in a system into software you can use in 72 hours? Because now with AI, we can do these rapid prototyping, no code apps. And for example, if I could build an app that you could load all your customer data, your transaction history, and maybe all the Q&A and support emails you've ever gotten, and be able to say, here are the questions and the answers that produce the most money and value in your company that you couldn't have figured out other than intuition, but this finds patterns that just a human wouldn't see. And if we package that and help your business, let's say, make 25% more money basically out of thin air, get more done faster, answer more questions, and automate it. Well, then what if we commercialize that?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, we, like with what you've been doing with IP and creating more patents and more trademarks, what if we package that and make it real? And you can use it like that week. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But then the commercialization. So when people say, well, how are you going to create trillionaires? It's sort of like, well, you can multiply the value of something a lot faster. Then you can automate it a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can commercialize it a lot faster. Now you're going 10x, 100x, 1,000x.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole point is that first of all, it's only going to be meaningful in U.S. dollars. Okay. I mean, There's all this nonsense about
de-dollarization.
If anything, the dollar gets stronger because I've had discussions with Peter, and he says, the dollar isn't lawn for the world. And I said, well, I think it's a silly thought. And I said, you know why the dollar is so important? Is that there's just as many dollars outside the United States as there is in the United States.
Yes.
And the use of those dollars outside the United States has no impact on the value of the dollar, and because the U.S. economy is so big, because the U.S. is not an import country or an export country. It's a self-sustaining economy. And if you discount Mexico and Canada, which is part of the same trade agreement system, I mean, that's it's essentially a single economy with some rules. But the U.S. only trades 6% of their GDP with the rest of the world, import or export. It's like, so the currency is simply based. The other thing is that I have a financial advisor, David Serber, who keeps track of all sorts of interesting trends that if I talk to him, he can get right back to me. And I said, what's the total value of all transactions in the world economy, that are recordable transactions? And he said, I'll look it up. And he says it changes, he says it changes from quarter to quarter and everything else. But the day he told me, he says, well, this is about 30 days ago, and on that particular day, it was $5.4 trillion. That's just transaction value, and that's only where you have recorded records, because there's a whole other economy which is it doesn't get recorded. Cash economy doesn't really get recorded, but he said the interesting thing is 90% of those transactions were in U.S. dollars.
Yeah.
China can't. China cannot. I mean, China's trying to create this weird trade zone and everything else, but they're all failing countries. They're putting. I mean, China's a failing country. Their population's going down. Their GDP's going down. Their manufacturing's everything's going down. And Brazil, same thing with Brazil and everybody else. And I said, so let me get this. Our central value unit is all going to be based on heavy export countries that are failing countries. Would you go for that? I wouldn't go for that.
Well, yeah. Or there's a podcast.
Or FTX,
Oops.
Or FTX or any of the other coins, and everything like that. I mean, they obviously have some use for some things, but not as your reserve currency for 8 billion people.
Yes. And there's a podcast I listen to and I watch frequently that I love. It's the All In podcast. And I've told you about it before. It's for Silicon Valley guys who I think have a really good handle on, first of all, investing money, world politics, and obviously you and I both like Peter Zion, and he's always got interesting.
I just finished the 6th complete reading of The End of the World is Just the Beginning, and I'm gonna hit it again. It was better the 6th time than it was the first time. Okay. Because the Daily News now is supporting his predictions. I mean, it's like every day something's happening in the world that's.
Well, here's what these guys said, and I could have sworn they said that the amount of transactions that take place was more than that, but but either way, the number doesn't matter as much as when someone argues the de-dollarization. It turns out, and Peter talks about this, they did it as well, where not only do we have the failing a country side of it, it's nobody has the liquidity capacity or capability that the dollar has. And it would take a long time for that to go away, followed by what I've always said is, if you want to pick the crappiest partners, like you can punch holes in America and say, well, for the most part, people love Americans. They just don't love our government because our government does do bad things. All right. But who wants to have Russia as a partner, China as a partner, or the Saudis as a partner? None of them are known for keeping their words or backing things up or playing the long game. And they're going to come along.
Or win-win. They're just not win-win.
No. It's they play a short game. And the one thing you can say about at least through my lens, and this is sort of like rah-rah for my team. But,
I always root for the home team.
Yeah, of course. But in the deal, it's sort of like, look, when you're operating inside of Dan's 4 core principles and everyone's making money, you're not gonna ruin a relationship. And the greed game is a short game, right? So, it's like play the long game, and it all comes back to good old fashioned mindset and rules or values alignment.
The other thing is people mistake the U.S. government with the United States of America. Okay. First of all, in a very real sense, it's 50 different countries that have a free trade zone. They have a free trade zone. And then they have a lot of things go along with the free trade zone. But the states in the United States have more discretionary power than the countries in the European Union. Okay. And the other thing is they've got thousands of independent researchers which check whether the facts that they're claiming are actually facts, So, I mean, there's, I'll tell you a story, and it's a little off topic, but we can pull it back. I have a discussion group with entrepreneurs that's gone. We're just approaching our 20th year, so it'll be 80 sessions. Mostly entrepreneurs, and every once in a while somebody will bring a guest for the night, and they'll talk about what they do in the discussion. So we met this guy, his name is Leland Miller, and he lives, I think, in New York City, and he's got a research report. And what it is, he's got a research network of 200 individual Chinese people who don't know each other. None of them know each other. And he asks them questions to just observe what's going on in their locale right now. He says, for example, anything missing in the stores? Anything this week? Anything missing in the stores? He says, what's traffic like? Traffic heavy? Traffic? And he's got about 6 or 7 questions, and none of it is secret knowledge. It's all public knowledge. It's public observation. And then he's created an algorithm over a quarter century that takes 7 times 200 reports a week, and it makes sense of what's the economy, what's the general mood, any unusual number of riots this week, and China on an average year has about 10,000 what we would call January 6th riots. Okay. They have about 10,000 a year. It's usually over local corruption. It's
nobody has food, from what I understand.
Nobody has a big enough view of the country that their complaints could be about anything except local stuff. And so he publishes this report, and who are his clients? The National Security Agency, the CIA, obviously the Pentagon, and then the MI5, MI6 in Britain. Around the world, he's got all these clients, but his biggest customer is the Communist Party of China. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason is it's the only accurate report they get once a week on what's actually happening in their own country.
Yep.
Yeah. So a country without a feedback loop between its people and the government is a government that's failing very, very quickly in the world that we're living here. I mean, our presidents can't sneeze without it being national news, falling down is not a sign of strength, it's, hitting your head on the airplane doorway, that gets interpreted.
Yeah.
It gets interpreted, looking lost at a public event doesn't read well. Yeah. But I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that's very different from a president who was crippled and in a wheelchair throughout the Second World War, and who was dying really fast with no reports on it whatsoever. The newspapers wouldn't report on it. No commentator would say anything about FDR's health. And it actually cost, it cost Europe half of its countries because he trusted the Soviet Union. He trusted the Soviet Union, but nobody would write about that. When he died, Harry Truman became president, and he had to be informed about the atomic bomb, which had been under had been under development for 6 years, 7 years when he died. He didn't know about, Vice President of the United States didn't know about the atom bomb project. There were 300,000 people involved in that, and it was a big chunk of the budget, it was a thing. So we have to realize just how, intensively we're made aware of things in this world. But there's no unity to the understanding of this. It's completely fragmented. And
the narrative isn't congruent or consistent, and that is troubling. Right? Yes.
Or you're cool and calm about it.
Yeah. What do you
No,
decide?
it doesn't
Well,
bother.
I think
It doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me at all. Because I'm sort of plugged into you. I'm plugged into, we're pushing 100 now for the free zone. I said, we had a connector yesterday. We had a connector. This is for those who don't know what I'm talking about here. We have a higher level, the highest level of strategic coaches called the free zone. And these are people who are just into collaboration between their company and other organizations. But yesterday we had one, and at the end of it, I said to everybody there was 13, and I said, something? I very confidently can make a statement that I think this is the finest philosophical discussion going on in the world today.
But which one specifically? You mean about the free zone and the collaboration?
No, just the quality of the discussions.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I said, hands down, I got to believe that the discussion that just went on and the thinking that went on and the contribution is the finest discussion that's going on in the United States. Not in the United States, but in the world today. There's no other place in the world where 13 people are having the level and quality of discussion that we're having. Yeah. And I said, so don't worry about the rest of the world. You're in the center.
Yeah. I have so I'm going to pat you on the back and say yes, which is what I've found. And I used to say this all the time when I'd go to any kind of a high value, high quality mastermind meeting. So I'm going to tell you a brief story before I get to the point. So I was at I
have to wrap in 5 minutes. Okay.
Yes, me too. That's good. So do I. So here's how it goes. I just came back from an event called Summit at Sea. And it's the Summit series. It's like a group of cool people. And this took place on a cruise ship, which normally I'd say no effing way am I ever going to get on a cruise ship. But it was a brand new Virgin cruise ship. And what's his name from Virgin?
Branson.
Richard Branson, right? And he apparently was on it. We missed him. We didn't get to see him, but I don't really care. I wasn't there for him. But here's what did happen. A guy named Kiko Dontchev, who is the launch director of SpaceX, was there. And then Thomas Zurbuchen, who basically ran the James Webb Telescope program and a bunch of stuff at NASA for like 25 years, was there. I ended up spending time with both of those people. I'm currently working with and coaching Kiko, and he's invited me to go to any launch I ever want to at SpaceX. We've become very close, very fast. And I was like, and I've told him all about Coach and why it's so valuable and important. And this is sort of like the big compliment. I said, what makes Coach unique is the alignment of values. And what you have, you're surrounded with a whole bunch of people with upgraded operating systems. You don't have to go through a whole bunch of am I aligned with you or not. It like bypasses years of trust development. And when you're aligned, and if you go through signature and you have the language down, you got the you go through the 10x multiplier, you have your mindset updated. Now inside Free Zone, you're prepared to do these collaborations where you never sit around and count the nickels or worry about someone having something and you not having that, because you're so aligned on creating massive abundance without worrying about who owns what, because yours is yours and theirs is theirs. And how do I create a 10, 100x or 1000x vision? And you don't have to describe what the rules are. Everyone sits down at the table and knows exactly how to behave and what to do. And that is, in your words, highly unusual and rare. And I truly believe it's the future of abundant business creation that supersedes language and cultural barriers. And I don't have any problem looking at things through a US-centric focus. But this is, like when you talk about the $1 trillion economy, it's an economy that doesn't recognize barriers, borders, languages, or we'll say a belief system that's irrelevant to the operating system. Okay. And that's really what it is. It's a incredibly powerful operating system upgrade. And that's what I like most and what I talk about whenever I'm meeting with someone. Hey, Dan.
That was very valuable.
Oh,
what
good.
Said. No, clip that and send it.
All right, I will. I'll do that because the good news is
Eleonora, no, I really appreciate your insights on that. Yeah, well, that's what I feel, and that's the kind of world I want to be in. So I've sort of created the environment. We all do. But I got a lot out of what you're talking about here, and about what I see as a real sea change. And I think another reading of Peter Zeihan would be time well spent for you. And
I'm going to do that.
I think he may be one of the most plugged-in human beings on the planet because everybody wants him. I mean, he's kind of in, what you're experiencing right now. He's the hot girl, and everybody wants
exactly.
Everybody wants a date with him. But he did 197 presentations last year. But he hikes and he goes camping.
I know. I watch his videos every morning. He definitely is a very talented dancing bear, and eventually that behavior catches up to your marriage or your health.
Yeah, but he looks in good shape. I mean, he looks in good shape.
He looks great.
I don't think.
And he might just have the perfect, I don't know how old his kids are and stuff like that. And what do I know, right?
No children and no partner. I don't know how old.
Okay.
I think he's pushing 50. He's pushing 50. But he spent about 20 years developing his knowledge base. 30 years developing his knowledge base. And he was contrarian from the beginning. And so he had 30 years of looking at things that nobody else was looking, and he puts them all together, and the world's on his side because the changes that he was detecting that were going to go on 5 years, 10 years from now they're happening. But he started talking about it and publishing it in 2014.
So, as usual, if you enjoyed this, share it with anyone you know, friends, family. Please comment and give us 5 stars, et cetera, because that helps the algorithm help find more people just like you. So with that, show notes are here and on the Capability Amplifier website. And go over there because we've got free books, and including Dan's latest book is available at capabilityamplifier.com. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.